Imagine you are a singer whose name is already known all over the world. Your song broke through to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Rolling Stone magazine put your face on the cover of what they called the most ambitious issue in nearly 60 years of their history. Millions of people across the globe know every note that comes out of your mouth. And in the middle of all that success, you sit in front of a Rolling Stone journalist, look at the camera, and say calmly, "I'm still not satisfied. I still feel like I have a very long way to go." That's not small talk. That's not the fake humility you hear from celebrities on press tours. That is Jimin, Park Jimin, the BTS member whose own bandmates openly admit has the highest vocal range in the group. And there is one sentence in this April 2026 interview that made me stop and read it again and again. One confession that, if you are a true ARMY, will make you see Jimin in a completely different way. Stay until the end, because that sentence is in the part that almost nobody is talking about. Hey everyone, welcome back to this channel. This is where we cover BTS and the K-pop world with a slightly different approach, not just recapping headlines, but actually digging into who these members are beyond the stage. If you are the type of ARMY who prefers substance over drama, you are in the right place. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, because we do this kind of deep dive content regularly. And now, without wasting any more time, let's talk about Jimin and the confession that most people completely missed from his Rolling Stone interview in April 2026. Here is the context you need to understand why this moment matters so much. April 2026, Rolling Stone releases what they describe as the most ambitious cover story package in nearly 60 years of the magazine's history. 8 different covers, 7 for each individual BTS member, and 1 for the group as a whole. This is not an ordinary interview. This is a historic moment, even by BTS standards. BTS had just made their comeback after more than 3 years away. Every single member completed their mandatory military service in South Korea. Their album Arirang was released on March 20th, 2026, and it exploded immediately, selling 641,000 copies in the United States alone in its first week, topping Apple Music charts in 115 countries simultaneously. In the middle of that euphoria, the biggest K-pop comeback in modern history, Rolling Stone sat down individually with every single member. Senior journalist Brian Hiatt conducted the interviews at HYBE headquarters in Seoul back in February 2026. When it was Jimin's turn, what happened was not a celebration. It was not a victory lap. What happened was one of the most honest, unguarded conversations Jimin has ever had in front of a camera, about dissatisfaction, about fear, about the inner struggle of someone the world considers already perfect, but who himself knows that perfection is not a destination. The interview opens with what sounds like a simple question. Brian Hiatt asks how Jimin is feeling 1 month before Arirang drops, and Jimin answers, "Very nervous. I'm super nervous. We're getting close to the release, and it's been so long. The whole time I've been feeling excited but also scared. I really want to do a good job." Wait, this is Jimin speaking? The BTS member who stepped onto some of the biggest stages in the world with an almost magnetic confidence? The dancer whose technique leaves his own bandmates speechless? The vocalist whose solo single, Like Crazy, made him the first Korean solo artist to reach #1 on the Billboard Hot 100? And he's still scared? He's still nervous? Yes, and that's just the beginning. Hiatt then goes deeper. He asks about his solo career, which exploded far beyond anything most people, including Jimin himself, had anticipated. "Oh, I didn't expect it at all. I'm truly so thankful for the response. But through that process, I learned that I still have a long way to go, and I plan to continue working hard to improve in the future." Let's slow down here for a second. He had just made history. He had just proven that a Korean artist could dominate the American charts as a solo act. And his response was not pride. His response was, "I still need to learn more." Then comes the question that cuts right to the heart of everything. Hyatt asks directly, "What do you want to improve when you already had these big singles right out of the box?" And Jimin answers, calmly, without drama, without performance, "First off, I want to improve my singing. I'd like to learn, practice more, and grow from there. Beyond that, I also want to write better. I want to make good albums with a good concept, and I think that's it. My job is to write good songs and sing them well." After all, that's simple, but the weight behind those words is enormous. Now let's talk about something that most people are glossing over in the wider conversation about this interview. In that same Rolling Stone feature, but in a different section, when all the BTS members were asked who has the best vocal range in the group, the answer was almost unanimous. They all pointed to one person, Jimin. V, who is known for his own distinctively deep and rich baritone voice, said without a moment of hesitation, Jimin's range is vastly superior. So on one side, you have 7 BTS members acknowledging Jimin as the member with the highest vocal ability in the group, and on the other, you have Jimin himself sitting in that interview chair saying, "I still want to improve my singing." This is not a contradiction. This is the paradox of a genuine artist. ARMY, who followed this interview, reacted in a way that was genuinely moving. On X and Threads, Jimin-related hashtags were trending within hours of Rolling Stone releasing the video content from the interview. Clips of his most honest moments were being shared with captions like, "This is why Jimin is different," and "This is what a real artist looks like." But there is something far deeper here than a viral moment, something far more personal, and this is the part that almost nobody is talking about.
But wait, there's something even more striking than everything we have covered so far. In the middle of all this confession about dissatisfaction and the relentless desire to improve, Hyatt asks Jimin something that sounds almost too straightforward. "Do you think you're too hard on yourself?" And Jimin answers, "Not really. Now I'm just having a great time with life. It's a joy to practice with the BTS members. We're having so much fun in rehearsal. I can't wait to get on that stage." That is where the real beauty of this whole interview lives. On one side, there is this deep and completely genuine dissatisfaction. On the other side, there is real and completely genuine joy. Not two things that cancel each other out. Two things living side by side inside someone who truly, deeply loves what they do. And the part that almost no one is unpacking separately is this. Jimin does not blame anyone for his dissatisfaction. He does not blame the brutal training system. He does not blame fan expectations. He does not blame the industry. He simply looks inward and says, "I can still be better." That level of self-awareness is extraordinarily rare, even among world-class artists. Now, let's put all of this into a much larger context. Jimin joined BTS as the last member before their debut in 2013. He came from Korea Arts High School with a specialization in contemporary dance, not intensive vocal training like some of the other members had undergone. In many of BTS's early training sessions, Jimin was known as someone who had to work twice as hard on vocals, while in dance, he was already operating at a different level entirely. That journey left a mark, not trauma, but a deep awareness that he always started from a different point than the others, at least when it came to singing. And interestingly, if you look at the pattern of Jimin's interviews over the years, there is one incredibly consistent thread running through all of them. In 2019, in 2021, and now again in 2026, there is always a moment where Jimin talks about dissatisfaction, about wanting to keep learning. This is not a PR strategy. This is not a carefully constructed image. This is genuinely how he thinks about himself and his career. What has changed is the context around him. In 2019, he was speaking from the position of someone still questioning his place in the industry. In 2021, he was speaking from the position of someone beginning to find his own voice. In 2026, he is speaking from the position of someone who has proven everything to the world, but still has not finished proving something to himself. And one more thing worth paying close attention to. In this 2026 Rolling Stone interview, Jimin also opens up about how his solo career changed the way he approached the group album. He says that what he took away from his solo projects was not a new technique, it was a new mindset. He learned not to be afraid to ask questions. He learned not to be afraid to try new things in the creative process. Thanks to that experience, Jimin says, when I got to work on this new group album, not that I did a great job or anything, but I wasn't afraid to ask questions, and I did my best to keep trying. Think about that journey for a moment. From a dancer learning how to sing, to the first Korean solo artist to hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, and then back into a room with 6 other BTS members, but with a completely different way of seeing himself and his role. There is a moment in the Rolling Stone video content, something that doesn't fully translate in the written version of the interview, where Jimin is asked about his ambitions going forward as a vocalist. And before he answers, there's a brief pause. 1 second, maybe 2. But in that silence, something is completely readable. This is a person genuinely thinking about his answer, not searching for something that sounds good, searching for honesty. And then he says, "My job is to write good songs and sing them well." That's it. No grand legacy statements, no sweeping vision of changing the industry, just a simple, clear awareness of what he wants and what he needs to get there. In a world where celebrities so often talk about legacy and generational impact and reshaping entire industries, Jimin chooses to answer with something that sounds almost too plain. But that's exactly where its power comes from. Because that simplicity is not a lack of ambition, it is clarity. Clarity about who he is and what he's chasing. And that kind of clarity at Jimin's level of fame and achievement is something extraordinarily, almost painfully rare. And if you've ever wondered why Jimin always looks different from other artists on stage, why there is always something in his performance that feels heavier, more intense, more completely committed, now you have your answer. He is not performing to prove something to anyone else. He is performing because he himself is not yet satisfied. And as long as he is not satisfied, he will keep burning himself completely on that stage, every night, every single time. So, here we are, April 2026. BTS is back. Arirang has exploded, the world tour is running across dozens of cities, and Jimin, in the middle of all of that, is still sitting in front of a Rolling Stone camera saying, "I still want to improve my singing." Some artists stop growing the moment they reach the top, and some artists feel the most uncomfortable at the top, because from that height they can see just how much more is still possible. Jimin is clearly in the second category. And if there's one thing I want to leave you with from this video, it's this. Healthy dissatisfaction, not the kind that destroys, but the kind that drives, is one of the most powerful fuels an artist can carry. And Jimin carries it in an extraordinary amount. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Jimin is genuinely too hard on himself? Or is that exact quality the reason he is the artist he is today? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if this video gave you a new perspective on Jimin that you hadn't considered before, share it with a fellow ARMY who might not have caught this Rolling Stone interview, because moments like this deserve a much wider conversation. Until the next one, take care of yourselves, and as always, purple you.